Hi, my name's Simon Baldock, and this podcast is called Tales from a Very Minor Celebrity. It's the story of how I conquered my insecurities and shyness and went on to have a 35-year career in broadcasting, both in the UK and in Spain. You'll hear some of my most memorable celebrity interviews and all the adventures I've had and the stories behind them. Like the time I delivered half a carcass of beef to Margaret Thatcher at 10 Downing Street, and the time I carried £1 million worth of diamonds on the tube in an old Sainsbury's bag on the way to a photo shoot with Lord Snowdon at the Ritz. Yes, hello everybody, and thank you for your continued support. This is episode 9 already of Tales from a Very Minor Celebrity, and another in the short series of recordings looking back at some of the stars of American 70s sci-fi programs and classics from the 80s and 90s as well. This week you'll hear interviews from Faceman himself, Dirk Benedict from the A-Team, and also Battlestar Galactica, and also a lovely lady who was born in Essex but emigrated to Canada at a very young age and went on to star in a very successful science fiction series, that is Stargate SG1. She is Amanda Tapping. First though, it's Dirk Benedict, best known for playing the characters Lieutenant Starbuck in the original Battlestar Galactica film and television series, and Lieutenant Templeman Faceman Peck in the A-Team television series, which he appeared in 96 episodes from 1983 until 1987. Now, when he's not making a movie or writing screenplays, he pilots his own aeroplane, composes music, goes fishing and just relaxes with his 2 sons. He's also the author of And When We Went Fishing and Confessions of a Kamikaze Cowboy, which looks back at his life and the factors that led him to become a vegetarian and his use of a microbiotic diet to help cure himself of prostate cancer.
What I consider, I took my life in my own hands.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of I use the word kamikaze because, it's sort of the fearlessness of it, of that journey that I did back then when everybody told me I would die if I did it. So I thought it was a catchy title that sort of, and once you read the book, it makes perfect sense. So the website is called that because of the book that I wrote called Confessions of a Kamikaze Cowboy.
Although you became a big star, you really are an outdoor boy at heart, aren't you?
Yes, and I'm now living back in Montana, I'm a single dad with custody of my 2 boys who are now 12 and 14, and so I've been doing that for 7 years, which is why I've sort of stepped back a bit from acting. I had my kids a little bit later in life, so I'm in my 50s now, and my kids, as I said, are 12 and 14, so it gives me a little bit added perspective, I think. And I have had a kind of a varied life experience. I started on Broadway. Actually, my first Broadway show was with Dinah Rigg, and then television and films, and yet I consider what I'm doing now to be the most interesting and certainly personally rewarding and deepening experience that I've had, being raising these 2 boys. And I live in a little log cabin here on a lake in the woods.
Oh, wow.
About 10 miles from town, and they go to school in a little small public school that's on a river, and so it's a bit rustic and a bit it's kind of unusual even over here.
But it obviously suits you.
Well, it does. I mean, I think when my kids get go off and leave home, I will then probably spend a lot of my time in a city. I very much enjoyed New York City, and I still have a lot of friends there, and I'm doing a lot of writing. I wrote and directed a film last year called Cahoots. Yes, film stars Keith Carradine and David Keith.
And this idea came up many, many years ago.
I have a whole chest full of ideas, a whole suitcase full of things that I want to write, and this was one of them that came up years ago in 1973. I was sitting around the pool with Paul Newman and Robert Redford, and I happened to say to George Roy Hill, who was there, who is the director of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, amongst other wonderful films.
Yeah.
At the time, they were shooting The Sting, and I was friends with George Roy Hill, who had invited me, who used to invite me up to Paul Newman's house on weekends. I was sitting there and said, someday somebody ought to do a movie about the real Butch and Sundance. I don't mean literally, but I mean what drives guys to do that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
So he thought that was interesting. He said, write it down. So I wrote it down and showed it to him, and he hated it. He thought it was pretty disgusting. It's a dark movie, very dark, about guys who do destructive things. And so I put it away, and then about 10 years ago, I drug it out and fleshed out the screenplay and rewrote it a bunch of times, and eventually got somebody to give me $2 million and cast the film, and I shot it in L.A.
I must, forgive me, I must mention Battlestar Galactica, because that's what really brought you to prominence to the public in Britain. Mm-hmm. And then the fabulous A-Team.
Yeah.
Does a day go by when you're not reminded of one of those two shows?
Oh, no. It's quite astounding to me, actually. I'm having a house built right now, a larger home for my two boys and I, and the guys that were working on it. Yesterday, I was down there with the workmen, and they were all asking me about the A-Team and Battlestar Galactica. So, and they, either grew up on it, or they watched it with their kids, or it had quite an enormous following, and it seems to do well with the passage of time.
Yeah.
Both shows hold up rather well. They're not too dated. They still work. And there's plans to do a remake of Battlestar Galactica, which, if they do, I'll probably participate in some fashion.
Really?
Playing the same character, Starbuck, but 20 years older.
Oh, fantastic!
Oh yeah, it'd be great. I've had lengthy talks with the writers and producers about what the character would be like now. And so after 20 years of womanizing and gambling and smoking cigars, and at the time I never entered my mind that after 20 years it would still be around, but it is. And,
Absolutely.
And I understand why, I think.
And you were teamed up with some great actors, Lorne Greene in Battlestar Galactica and George Peppard in A-Team.
I've had kind of an interesting exposure to some legendary performers in my business. As I said, my first Broadway play was with Diana Rigg.
Yeah.
My second, it doesn't get much better than that. My second one I starred in with Gloria Swanson. And through Swanson I met Garbo, if you can believe that.
Wow.
Who was just a little lady who was just, Greta would just come over and visit Gloria, and just two girls would have tea and talk about, life. And I met Gish, Loya and Gish. So those are people that go back to the beginning of celluloid. So how freaky is that? And then, of course, one of the last films I did was with Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
And then in Battlestar Galactica, Fred Astaire played my father in a 2-hour episode, and he and I became quite close. And that was one of my more fond memories, is the time I spent with him. We got along extremely well. We were very similar personality-wise, and had a wonderful chemistry off-screen. And he was a very charming, humble, sweet man.
Somebody here who is a great fan of the A-Team, he actually has all the A-Team videos. He said to me to ask you about the opening credits when there are some Cylons. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Was that your idea?
Absolutely. I take full responsibility, full credit for that. We were actually shooting at the A-Team was never filmed at a studio, but occasionally we're at Universal, because it was a Universal show. We were always out on location, but this one episode we shot on the lot, and we were shooting there, and there was a Cylon just walking by from the tour that they do. And I saw him, and I went to the director. I said, at the beginning of this next scene, just have that Cylon walk in front of me. He said, well, why? Well, I said, no, just, I got an idea. What I did, just looked at him like, don't I know you? And then we went on with the scene, just as a joke for dailies, for them to see in dailies. Well, the producers, which I'm very happy of, liked it, and they put it in those big opening credits when they introduced characters. They would show that little bit of the Cylon walking by and my character looking at him like, geez, you look familiar. No, I guess it must be a mistake. The A-Team was probably the most fun I ever had working as an actor in film or television. Just sheer fun. And it went on for 4.5 years. And it was with 4 guys, 4, manly men out there smoking cigars and shooting guns and it was kind of like being, an 18-year-old kid for 4.5 years. And we had our little squabbles, but we loved each other, and so it was kind of like brothers, fighting and having a great time.
Dirk Benedict, who also made a cameo appearance in the 2010 big screen remake of The A-Team, starring Liam Neeson, Bradley Cooper and Jessica Biel, along with Dwight Schultz, who played Howling Mad Murdoch in the original series. But Mr. T, who played B.A. Baracus, decided not to take part in that remake. Now Amanda Tapping, who I had the pleasure of interviewing back in 2004-ish, and then she invited me to meet her at one of her convention weekends at a hotel near Heathrow Airport. I'd tracked her down because I was working for a radio station in Essex at the time, and I found out that she was actually born in Essex, near Rochford to be precise. So there was a local interest, there was Stargate SG1, which was a huge success on TV, and again, one of my favourite programmes. So from a personal point of view, I just really wanted to chat to her. So I initially contacted her through her website and did a telephone interview, and then a year later I met her at this Amanda Tapping convention near Heathrow, my first experience of anything like this, when fans meet their idols, and what a real eye-opener it turned out to be. Now this is my first experience of a convention. It's a crazy place. Crazy, isn't it?
It's fandemonium is what it is. It's fantastic. This is actually one of the best-run conventions I have ever attended, run by a group called Gabbett, and it was 4 directors who got together and approached me, I think about maybe 4 or 5 years ago to do their convention, proposing a nice, intimate weekend with my fans, which I thought was really a lovely idea, as opposed to these big, massive expos, which are great for what they are, but you don't really get a chance to talk one-on-one with the fans. And one of the reasons I like doing conventions is the opportunity to come and say thank you, because if it weren't for the fans, we wouldn't be on the show or on the air for 9 years. And so here I am, finally, 4 years in the making, able to come to this event, and it's just been fantastic.
I was watching you doing a Q&A earlier on. You're very good, aren't you? You must enjoy it. It looks like you're enjoying it.
I really do enjoy it. It's I'm very nervous at first, but once you get going, really what you do is you open it up and the fans ask the most fantastic questions, which lead you into all sorts of crazy stories. So I have a great time up there. I mean, a lot of them about the show, obviously, and fans of science fiction in general I find to be highly intelligent, and they have an encyclopedic knowledge of the show. So they probably know more about the show that I'm on than I do. But they also ask a lot of other questions, too, which is really interesting. I mean, then you open up sort of stories about your personal life, and so it's been really funny.
They almost know as much about you as you do, I suppose. They seem really devoted.
Yes, they are, which is incredible to me. Remarkable even that I've been flown over here to meet these fans, and fans have come from all over the world to meet me. It seems crazy to me, and they are incredibly devoted and incredibly knowledgeable and really just very generous.
And what also surprised me was that a large number of them are women.
I think it is primarily because the character that I play has become a good role model. She is incredibly smart and incredibly dedicated. She's, I think, one of the rare characters, female characters on television that isn't about her sexuality, and it's not about her figure, or do you know what I mean? She's not. It's not superficial with Sam Carter. This is a really well drawn out character, and all I can say is I think it's a testament to our writers and a testament to the show in general that they haven't made her this sex kitten, which is often what happens in sci-fi. But sci-fi is changing since we started the show 9 years ago. It's changed a lot, and I think the doors have really opened up for these really strong, really direct and very focused female characters. So
scary women, which us men, don't.
Not scary, not scary.
But you
the
are.
gun is scary, admittedly. And yes, I suppose if I were a bloke walking down the street and a woman walked up to me with a P90, I might be a little bit intimidated. Yeah, I guess it could be construed that way because she is different, and she's very smart, and she could probably kick your butt. And I could probably kick. No, I'm just kidding, Simon. But she also has a great sense of humor. I think she's really well-rounded, and I think that that's what women respond to, and people in general. And my demographic is a lot different than some of the other characters on the show, and I find that I have a lot of mothers and daughters who come, and a lot of couples who come, which I think is really neat. So, but yeah, the majority of the people here this weekend seem to be women.
The wonderful Amanda Tapping. And if you ever get the chance to go to one of these conventions, even if you're not a sci-fi fan, then please do go along. They're incredible events with thousands of loyal fans dressing up as their favourite characters. It really is a great sight. These days, as well as acting, Amanda Tapping is regarded as a highly successful and respected director and is in demand across the film and television industry. And that's it for this week. Boy, it's gone quickly. Now, next week, we're looking back at the stars of two very popular 70s and 80s American series. Antonio Fargas, who was Huggy Bear in Starsky and Hutch, and the wonderful James Best, who played Roscoe P. Coltrane in The Dukes of Hazzard.
This here Roscoe P. Coltrane calling into the fat buddy. You got your ears on? Guess he's not.
That's next week on Tales from a Very Minor Celebrity.